What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm going to show you how to start investing in real estate with just $5,000. I'm going to show you how to use an FHA loan properly so you don't get taken advantage of, and I'm going to talk about PMI and all the other things that people will say that usually talk you out of starting and investing early with a low down payment. And I'm going to show you what you can do to avoid all the shortcomings that come with it so you can win big and start investing now. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, I would say this is a question that I've gotten more than any other question, and I don't know why I've waited to answer it until now, but there are so many people that say, Chandler, how much money do I need to get started? Would you do an FHA loan? What would you do if you were in my situation and you only had $5,000 or $10,000? And so in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to use that $5,000 to $10,000. I'm gonna show you how to get over a 30% return in just cash flow. You're also gonna own a property that's gonna be getting appreciation, principal pay down. The biggest reason I love this strategy so much is it gives you the ability to start investing now. The only thing I like more is when you guys smash the like button. Actually, that's not true. I like that you buy real estate. You get the idea. Just make sure you hit the like button. So let's get into the meat of this thing. Now, it hasn't even been a year since I purchased this duplex. Now, the reason I'm going to use this duplex in the example is I'm going to show you the exact numbers you can use so you can spend under $5,000 to get you into this duplex, making a 30% plus return on your money. Now, I'm gonna walk you through everything from cash flow to PMI to all of your expenses to your total return so that you know exactly how to find a property like this and use an FHA loan with only $5,000 to yield a ginormous return. And I know so many people will say, oh, don't use an FHA loan. You're gonna have to pay way more interest. You're gonna have to pay PMI. You're gonna have to deal with all of these negatives. It's not worth it. Just wait until you can put down a bigger down payment. And I say to you, that is garbage. Don't do it. Listen to this video and I promise you there's a way for you to start investing in real estate now. All right, guys, in this video, I say PMI a ton. I meant to say MIP. They're the same thing. MIP is mortgage insurance for an FHA loan. PMI is mortgage insurance for a conventional loan. So just know, regardless of what I say, it's talking about mortgage insurance. Back to this duplex. We're gonna pretend for just a minute that I only have $5,000 to invest. I've never bought any real estate, and I wanna know how I can get into a property and make a huge return in real estate with only $5,000. And so here's what you're gonna do. First off, you're gonna go in and you're gonna get pre-approved for a loan. You're gonna make sure that you can get an FHA loan and that you can get pre-approved for $150,000, $200,000. Now, I've talked about how to get pre-approved in this video. So if you don't know how to do that, just go check out this video. It's gonna walk you through the entire process. Then you're gonna start shopping deals. Now, I've done tons of videos on how to do this, so we're just gonna jump to finding this deal. Lo and behold, we're shopping and we find a duplex for $150,000. Now, we negotiate, we use everything that I've talked about in my other videos or in my course if you've decided to purchase that. If you haven't, you can get it on sale for $50 off in the link below and you can go and check that out. Either way, we're gonna say you know what you need, you negotiate, and you get them down to a $140,000 purchase price. Now, if some of you are saying, Chandler, those numbers are way out of whack, there's no way I could find that. Well, here's the deal. This duplex, that's what I bought it for. So I know it works, and it's only been like 6 months since I did that. So 100% you can find a duplex like this. So at this point, you're purchasing it for $140,000, you've got it under contract, and now it's time to dive into the numbers. Now, if you've got this property under contract, you already know that the numbers work at $140,000, but what's important to you, if you're me, if you're you, in this situation where you only have $5,000 to invest, you need to understand what numbers you're dealing with so that you know this property can work for an FHA loan. So we're gonna jump into that and help you understand exactly where the numbers will be on this property. So we're gonna jump into my app. If you don't have it already, you can download it completely free on iOS or Android. You just type in CDS Rental Calculator and it's a free download. Doesn't get any of your private information. It's just there to help you run the numbers on deals. So download the app and let's jump into the numbers. The first thing you're gonna do is plug in a $140,000 purchase price. But wait, before we do that, you've got to recognize that you are on an FHA loan. What this means is you are going to have to pay PMI. Essentially what this is an insurance you pay for so that the bank allows you to put a much lower down payment down. Now, a lot of times with FHA and PMI and everything involved, people freak out because there's so many different numbers that go into it and they don't completely understand it. So I'm going to show you how to run the numbers on an average FHA loan. Now, again, you want to make sure that these numbers work when you go and sit down with your loan officer and that I've told you everything properly. However, this will give you a very ballpark figure and help you to understand how to run them. So the first thing you need to do, and I'm not gonna dive into why you need to do it, but because you're on an FHA loan, you need to take out your down payment. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna plug in 3.5% with a $140,000 purchase price, and you're going to see what your down payment is and what your loan is. Now here's where it gets tricky. And so I'm just going to show you the numbers. Just run them like this. Don't dive into them too much. This is just how they're going to run it on an FHA loan. So you're gonna have to trust me. If you want more detail, talk to your loan officer, but this is the most simple way to run the numbers so you know where your numbers are going to be, ballpark, with an FHA loan. Now, if you want exacts, go in and talk to your loan officer. That's always my advice, but I wanted to show you the numbers with an FHA loan after me talking to a loan officer and getting exact numbers on an average person that has a 720 to a 740 credit score, and you might even be able to get into a under 700 depending on your loan officer. So you're gonna plug in your down payment of 3.5% in the calculator. This is going to show you that your down payment will be $4,900. So you're gonna take out that $4,900. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna see what's left. When you take out the $4,900, that's gonna leave you with $135,100. Once you know that amount, you're now going to take that amount and you're going to multiply it by 1.0175. Now, the reason you do this is they're essentially adding more to your loan because it's an FHA loan. I know it seems weird, it seems crazy. You can learn more about it when you talk to your loan officer. Just trust me on this when running your numbers. So you're going to plug that in. That's going to give you $137,464. Now what you're going to do is you're going to subtract what your original loan payment was from what that loan payment is now. That's going to leave you with $2,364. Now, I know this is a lot of math. Just trust me, this is an easy way to plug it in so that you can figure out how things are going to look with an FHA loan. So now that you've got this $2,364, and then you're going to add that in to your purchase price of $140,000, and you're going to replug that in. Now, when you replug this in to your purchase price, that's going to give you $142,364. Now, I know there are some loan officers that are saying, well, Chandler, that's really close, but maybe a little off. I know that, but this is going to give you a very accurate picture of what your numbers are going to look like with an FHA loan. And at this point, all loan officers are shaking their heads saying, yeah, no, that is a good way to break it down. So if you've used that calculation, and you can rewind and go through it again, but plug that in so your purchase price is $142,364. Your down payment is going to be 3.5%. Your closing costs, you're going to put 0. Now, you can pay the full 2% closing costs. They are going to be more expensive. However, if I was you and I was on a budget, I would find a way to get them to cover your closing costs. Whether that means you're connected with a realtor and he can kick you back some commission, or you just negotiate into your deal them covering your closing costs. Now, some loan officers or brokerages or credit unions or whatever might have an issue with this. However, you want to do whatever you can to keep the lowest amount down possible. possible. Now, if you've got more than $5,000 and the only deal you can find is with you covering your closing costs, then obviously do it. Or if you've only got $5,000 and you can find a cheaper property, maybe one for $100,000, then do that. But this is what I would suggest if I just had $5,000 and we're using this duplex. So right away, we're gonna go into our closing costs and we're going to put 0. Now, to keep this video short, I'm not gonna go into detail on all of these other boxes. I'm gonna tell you what number to plug in, but if you wanna know how to run the numbers and what these boxes are for, just click this link right here and it'll walk you through all of that. But you're gonna plug in 30 years to pay off. You're gonna plug in an interest rate of 3.5%. You're gonna plug in rents of $1,400. Now, I'm gonna come back to this, but that's what the rents were on this property, and those are the rents you need to make this work. Then you're gonna go to utilities. You're not gonna put anything in there because you're not collecting any. You're gonna put a vacancy of 6%, a maintenance of 12%, management of 7%. Utilities, you're gonna put nothing, but now we're gonna plug in our PMI. Now, a lot of people say, Chandler, why do you not have a section on here for PMI or for mortgage insurance? Well, here's the deal I do. It's called additional expenses. And to figure out your PMI for this property, I actually called up my loan officer and I said, what's standard? And he said 0.85%. So you're gonna take the loan balance, you're gonna multiply it by 0.85%, you're gonna get the total for the year, and you're gonna plug it in right here. Now, plugging it in here pulls it as a yearly expense. It's the same for running your numbers and your return. The only difference is you're not doing this as a one-time payment. It's divided by 12 and put into your mortgage payment every single month. So keep that in mind when you see what your monthly expense is going to be, because this is a yearly expense. It's gonna be divided up. Now, you don't have to mess with anything. Just realize when you pay your mortgage, instead of paying this once a year, it's just gonna be divided between those 12 months and included in your mortgage. And that's where you can plug in your PMI. So again, that's $1,168. Then your insurance is gonna be $312. Your taxes are gonna be $1,300. Now, this $1,300 number can actually be lower if you're living in it. And if you're getting an FHA loan, you have to be living in it. So I know right now people are saying, well, Chandler, you included the rents as if you weren't living in it and you were renting it. Yes, I did, because I want you to see what your return is. But we're gonna come back and show you how that's going to affect all the numbers. So insurance $312, taxes $1,300. Now, keep in mind this $1,300 number could actually be lower because you'll be living in the property because it's an FHA loan. However, I'm running the numbers right now as if you're not living in it because I want you to see what your return will be when you move out. Then we're gonna come back and show you what it looks like while you're living in it. So after this, all you're gonna do is click Run Numbers. Now, here is where it gets crazy. After running these numbers, you're going to see that you're getting a 52% cash on cash return. Your cash flow on this property is gonna be $2,608 when you've only invested $4,982. Now, this is insane, absolutely crazy. However, I wanna show you how you got to these numbers. The only way you got to these numbers is because you put a very low down payment and you didn't cover any closing costs, and you're gonna live in it a year, and this is what the numbers will look like when you move out. Now, we're gonna go back and I wanna show you a couple different scenarios. We're gonna go back and plug in 2% on closing costs, and we're gonna click Run the Numbers. Now your return goes to a 33% cash on cash return because you're paying those 2% in closing costs. So if they make you do that, you're gonna be over the $5,000 we talked about, but that puts you at $7,700 invested and a 33% cash on cash return. So you can see why I say it's so important to try and get them to cover closing costs so you can have as little money down as possible. The other thing you wanna make sure of is that you have 6 months reserves. So go back through this and make sure that when you look at your mortgage payment and all of your expenses, you can cover 6 months worth and you have that in the bank if you need it for if a worst case scenario happens. Now, this is one of the reasons a lot of people say never get that much debt and put that little down on a property because you've got all of this debt. What if something happens? Well, here's the deal. I would much rather you have reserves for 6 months so that you would be completely fine for well over a year, because there's no way where you're gonna have a full year worth where you don't have at least 50% of the rents you're expecting paid after some crazy expense or vacancy or whatever else that would happen. That's why I always push you to make sure you've got 6 months reserves. Now, I know we've bounced around a lot, but at this point you can see the kind of return you would get on this investment property after you moved out. Now, here is where it gets exciting. Is you've got to live in this property, but I want to show you what the numbers are going to look like if you lived in the cheaper unit and rented out the other unit. Now, the first thing you're going to do is delete your management fee, because if you're living in the property, there's no reason you can't manage it for 1 year and then transition over to a management company. It's going to be a great learning experience for you. I promise you can figure it out. So delete the management fee. Then you're going to go down here to your taxes. Because you're living in it, your taxes should be less. Now, this isn't always the case, and I'm not going to dive into the rules, but I'm going to drop the taxes down to $1,000. This is a worst case scenario. Because you're living in it, you should have substantially less taxes. I would guess it might even be $600 or $700, but we're gonna do $1,000 to be conservative. Now you're gonna jump back up to the top and you've got the same purchase price, the same everything else, but on your rents, you're going to live in the bottom unit. Now, the top unit was going to be rented at $850. The bottom unit was going to be rented at $650. You're now living in the bottom unit at $650. So you're only going to be collecting $850 in rents. So once you've got all of those numbers plugged in, now you're going to click run the numbers again. And this is where it gets fun. You're living in the property and you see that you were getting a negative 18% cash on cash return. Now, a lot of people are going to see a negative 18% cash on cash return and they're going to freak out and say, oh no, I bought a property, I'm living in it, I'm getting a negative return. Well, here's the deal. Hold up a little bit. You're going to look at your cash flow and you're going to see your negative $1,445. Now, keep in mind, this duplex I bought was in pretty darn good shape. The downstairs was a nice 1-bedroom apartment. What this means is you are living in a 1-bedroom apartment. You are getting appreciation on this property. You are getting principal pay down on this property. You are getting tax benefits on this property, but you are also getting a place to live for only $1,445. And no, that's not monthly, that's for the entire year. That means if you take that number and plug it in, so 1,445, and you divide that by 12, you are paying a whopping $120 per month in rent. Again, you are getting the appreciation, the principal pay down, the tax benefits, and you've got a tenant that is paying the majority of the mortgage for you, so you're only paying $120 a month. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, you just did an investment and you're losing money. Well, what were you paying in rent before? Most likely at least $650, because that's what this unit requires for you to pay on top of any other expenses that now you are getting help with while owning a property that is appreciating, that you're getting principal pay down, tax benefits, and everything else. Now, I know I've said that a lot, but this is crazy. $120, all right, to live in this property, and you're only going to live in it for a year, because then you're going to do this again and again and again if you can. And here's what's so cool. With this $120, you're paying that to live, but the second that you get out of this property and you go and live somewhere else, immediately that jumps up to where you're getting a beefy return that is a 33% return if you paid closing costs, or over a 50% return if you didn't, because you negotiated things well. Now, for all of those people out there that are saying, oh, but you're paying PMI and you've got to pay interest, and what about your expenses and all this other da 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 da. It's a bad deal. You shouldn't do it. There's so much risk. Well, guys, what is your risk? All right? Because all those things that they just listed were already taken into consideration when doing this calculation. As a matter of fact, even if you have a tenant that does not pay their rent, all right? They're not paying anything ever, then all you're going to do is add back in their rent, and that's what extra you have to pay every month. So now you've gone from the $120 a month, you're gonna add on $850 to that, and you're right at where you're gonna be paying if you never have a tenant in there, which is probably only gonna be a couple $100 away from whatever you were gonna rent for, except for that won't happen because you're gonna find a tenant. So don't stress. Everybody makes it sound so terrible and so hard to find a tenant. You will only have a 6% vacancy if you do things right. And as a matter of fact, a lot of years you'll have no vacancy because you find a good tenant that stays there for years and years and years. So I hope this video helps you to understand that PMI isn't scary. Paying interest isn't scary. Expenses aren't scary. Investing in real estate with a low down payment is not scary as long as you run the numbers and you find a property like this where the numbers are unreal. You find a property where you know your return is going to be unreal when you move out, and you make sure that you keep 6 months worth of expenses and mortgage in reserves so that if the worst does happen, it's not the worst. You might not have a tenant in there for a month or two. Who cares? And if it's a month or two, you totally suck. That is a worst case scenario to have vacancy for that long. But even if it happens, you don't care because you've got a place to live and you've got 6 months reserves and you're gonna have to pay rent anyway. So I hope you understand, yes, there are additional expenses, but additional expenses don't matter if you've got the income to back them up or the rents to back them up so that you're not worried about those extra expenses. So I'm telling you right now, guys, jump into it. Find a way to get into real estate because here's the deal. This property 5 years down the road most likely is going up in value 3 to 5 to maybe even 10% every single year. And you can totally refinance or sell or do a myriad of other things that instantly you are going to have huge value added to your net worth, especially if you bought the deal under market value when you purchased it. Now, I hope this video helps you a ton to get into that first property and to recognize that it's not scary, it's not complicated, and you can do it with a very low amount of money. Now, again, if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell so that you can catch all my future videos. And if you want to learn more about starting with no doors and going to over 100 doors of rental real estate, make sure you check out the course and use that $50 off coupon so that you can get an awesome deal on it. Now guys, thank you so much. Remember to hit that like button and remember that my goal is to help you to build a huge passive income. Thanks guys, have a good day.